Hello everyone, welcome back to another Skyrim mods video. This time we're going to be taking a look at Anti-Magic, a take on Shodow Magic, requested by God Serena. What this mod allows you to do is be able to cripple mages, but in turn crippling yourself. You'll see what I mean once we start looking at some of the perks and magical abilities that this mod adds. Starting off with the first perk in the alteration skill tree, it is the Womb Burn. This grants you the Mark of Shadow, stunning your magic regeneration by 55%, but increases your resistance to all magic by 20%. At rank 2, this further decreases your magic regeneration by 5%, but increases your magic resistance to all magic by 5%. At rank 3, it decreases your magic regeneration yet again by 5%, but increases your magic resistance to all magic by another 5%. This also grants you the Darkcaster ability, which upon being hit by a spell, stores energy as bonus magic and magic regeneration or uses to heal. So if you go over to your magic and look over at active effects, you'll see that you have the Darkcaster ability, which just signifies that you have slower magic regeneration overall, but you're more resistant to magic in a fight. This also allows you to pretty much tank 1 or 2 magic shots up to 3, and this gives you a magical charge which will be used within later of the video to use certain abilities with these magical charges. Going over to the left, you have Magic Biter. Grants you the ability Enhance Weapon, Ignite Magicka, allowing you to imbue your held weapons with magic burning properties. The weapon must be unenchanted. So once you activate this perk, if you go over to your powers, you will see a new power called Enhanced Weapon, Ignite Magicka. I'll show that off now. If you come over to the powers menu, you'll see a new power, Enhanced Weapon, Ignite Magicka. As explained before, this gives you a magical buff to any unenchanted sword. This lasts for 180 seconds and it does 5% bonus damage to your opponent's total magic. The higher the magic, the more bonus damage that the weapon does. Now in order to use this, you must already have your weapon unsheathed and in your hand. So once you place the perk, you'll see that the weapon has a purplish hue to it, as well as a little wind aura around it, and this will last for approximately 3 minutes. So in order to show this off, I'm going to summon a mage in front of me, and you'll see that it will do normal bonus damage from that. So I thought in order to show this off more effectively, I'm going to attack the storm mage in front of me without the magical buff, and then I will apply the buff itself, and you'll see a slight increase of damage. So as you can see, standard strikes. Now when I apply the buff to myself, as you can see, it does extra tick of damage per each one of the strikes. The higher the opponent's magical pool, the more bonus damage that you'll do with your drawn enhanced weapon. The enchantment ends once you sheath your weapon or if you run out of time. Now I've summoned another mage so I can show off one of the previous perks, the Womb Burn at rank 3. As you can see, I've been hit by sparks, and I now have a Dark Charge. This increases my magic by 20% and my magic regeneration by 40%. So this is helpful to counteract what Womb Burn originally does to yourself by adding a little bit more magic and increases your magic regeneration in order to kind of make a nice balance. Now, whenever you have a magical charge, you can use one of your starting ability, or not your starting ability, but one of the abilities you earn called Dark Mending. This consumes your Dark Charge to heal you. The first charge you have is 20% of your overall health pool. The second charge is 40%, and the third charge is 60%. Now I have one charge, and she's doing some damage to me. As you can see, without the cost of magic, I actually did regain some of my health back. Now if she hits me with another spell, I'll regain another Dark Charge. This time I have 2 charges, and a charge 2 increases my overall magic by 40% and my magic regeneration by 80%. I'm actually going to take a little potion here, just so I can actually show off the Dark Charge. Now the Dark Charge at rank 2, or not, excuse me, not Dark Charge rank 2, the Dark Mending rank 2 again does 40% overall healing of your, it does 40% healing based on your overall health. As you can see, I healed a little bit more. And if she managed to get me to rank 3, I can show off the last rank of that. So let's back off a little bit. We have 1 Dark Charge. Let's see if she'll hit me again. Dark Charge 2. Still only at Dark Charge 2. Hit me with another spell. I think she actually ran out of magic doing that. But regardless, you get the gist of what I'm trying to show. There we go, Dark Charge 3. Increases your overall magicka by 60, and magic regeneration by 120. So you'll be getting a lot more magic back if you hit Dark Charge 3. You can also use those charges in order to heal yourself if need be. So I used all 3 of my charges, and I healed myself by 60% of my overall health. So very useful, because for one, this does not cost magic, it costs the charges that you gain over battle. The downside to this though is that you cannot move while casting the Dark Mending, so you'll be left vulnerable if you try and cast it in the middle of a fight. Shodow Mastery ranked 1. Grants you 2 magical abilities, Detect Magic and Anti-Magic Weave. From there, if we go back to the Magic tab, you'll gain 2 new powers. Anti-Magic Weave. Use Shadow Magic to imbue your fist with anti-magical properties that will burn your enemy's magic, allowing warding when blocking. Also allows you to project the energy as an energy wave when power attacking. Now for this, it is recommended that you get a mod that allows you to block with two-handed weapons, because this will use both of your weapons and actually do so. Now in order to show this off, I'm actually going to disable my controller and use a mouse and keyboard. So there we go. Now we've activated our anti-weave ability. And as you see, as I'm holding the V button to block, I cast a small ward, which allows me to block. And there we go. I'm actually warding the damage as I'm blocking. If I power attack while I have this on, I get a small shockwave. So very useful ability. If you are stronger not one-handed, but unarmed combat, this is actually really nice for you, because it gives you not only the ability to drain mage's magic, but also increases your overall unarmed damage and gives you pretty cool properties in order to block and actually send out small shockwaves. So again, pretty cool stuff. The second ability you get is Detect Magic. This sends out a pulse that detects most forms of magic, be it wielded magic, undead, daedra, or creatures with high magicka. Now, this also tends to work with detecting magical items within chests. So if you're exploring and you feel like a chest might have a magical item, you can pop this ability, and anything that has magic will actually show off a purplish hue, like myself. Now in order to show this off, I will summon, just really quickly, another mage so you can kind of see the effect that it has. As you can see, once cast, she glows off a purplish hue, and that signifies that indeed she has magical properties. I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory because she's shooting with magic, but this is more for if you're sneaking up on a party or if you're exploring a cave. Rank 2 of Shadow Mastery, Rank 2 of Shodow Mastery grants you 2 more anti-magical abilities, Silence and Magical Sap. So Silence. Silence an enemy, temporarily cutting off their magical supply, interrupt their current spell. So from there, we silenced her, pretty much nullifying her magic abilities, and if she was in the middle of casting a high-level spell, it would interrupt that spell. So very useful again if you're fighting high-level people or high-level enemies that have a good magic pool. You can silence them and go in for melee attacks. Now it doesn't last too long, but it lasts just enough to where you can get in a few hits, or if you need to disable some magic and actually back away. The second ability, as I mentioned before, was the Magical Sap. Lost track there. It drains 25% of magic per second of the target, interrupts any spell casting. If the target's base magic is over 110 and drops below 10, they'll be paralyzed for the duration of concentration. Now we are slowly draining her magic. And as you can see, her magic threshold went below the point to which she was temporarily paralyzed. Going on to rank 3 of Shadow Magic, Mastery, grants you 2 more anti-mage abilities, Ignite Magic and Devour Magic. So going over back to the Powers tab, Devour Magic. Devours minor magic effects from the target to restore health. If the target is an enemy, then the spell will devour beneficial magic. If the target is a neutral or friendly, then instead the spell will devour negative effects. Now because she doesn't have any actual buffs on her, this spell is actually a little bit harder to show off. But the purpose of it is to say the enemy you have cast something like Storm Shield or the Fire Shield or Oak Shield. Now what you can do is use Devour Magic. You can cast that and actually drain that ability from them, and use that to gain back some overall health. And if your enemy is affected with something like poison, or say they're hit with something that drains their magic or stamina over time, you can use Devour Magic and dissipate the negative effects from your companion and actually use that to heal yourself. So very useful abilities. The second ability you get was Ignite Magic. Ignite 30 points of Magicka to an enemy, dealing 142% of the Magicka burn as damage. The Magicka burn is increased by 10% per perk range, or excuse me, by perk rank of Magic Ire, and I will show that off here. As you can see, it does quite a bit of damage because she is in fact a mage. Now, the more magic she has stored up, the more magical damage it will do. Because she drained all of her magic, it does slightly less damage each time. Now, if she was to have a full magical pool, you can cast this, and it does a substantial amount of damage. But because she actually used this to since she actually started doing damage to me and draining her magic, it does less damage. But overall, again, the application is pretty self-explanatory. If the opponent has a high magical pool and you do some quick damage to it, go ahead and cast Ignite Magic. It does 38% of their Magicka, so the higher the magic, the more damage, and it deals 142 points of Magicka burned as damage. So again, very powerful stuff, more situated for higher level mages or Dragon Priest. At rank 4, you get 2 new abilities, Spell Steal and Shadow Step. Now, unfortunately, I was unable to get Shadow Step to work properly. Maybe it's because I was using a controller, but I will try and use a mouse and keyboard and see exactly if I can get the Shadow Spell to work here. So, 1 second. So, Shadow Dancer. Enables or disables use of Shadow Step. Press the Activate key when moving once to activate. So, we have Shadow Step added. There we go. So unfortunately, this does not work with the controller, but it does work with mouse and keyboard. And once activated, you can move in almost any direction to give a quick, brief Shadow Step. Now, unfortunately, you cannot go through walls or anything like that. Each use drains a little bit of magic, and discharging the spell itself actually drains off a little bit of magic as well. But regardless, this is really useful for quick escapes and things like that. Now, the next ability that you get is Spell Steal. This is pretty self-explanatory. Steals the equipped spell of opponent for 25 seconds. Beneficial spells will automatically be cast on you, and damaging spells will equip it to the mirrored hand and or voice. Now, this is actually a pretty good opportunity because she actually does have a buff. I can show off exactly what Steal spell does. There we go. Now, if you take a look at my active effects, I actually stole her spell, and I deactivated her aura that she casted around her. So very cool stuff if you don't actually use magic, but you want to actually drain magic from people. At rank 5, it gives you 1 more magical ability, Anti-Magic Zone, which is probably one of the more interesting spells that you get from this mod. Now, once you have rank 5, you'll have a new ability, Anti-Magic Zone. Creates a nullified zone around the casters and makes all who are in it bound to, which makes all who are within its bounds almost impervious to all forms of magic. Casting is near impossible within its radius, and Magicka is greatly reduced. Will consume up to 400 Magicka, a minimum of 100, and every extra 100 increases its reach. So, if that wasn't pretty explanatory, it is a high level spell, and what it does is it creates a magical field around the caster. Now, let me unequip God mode so I can show you some of the other effects. As you can see, my magic is greatly reduced. Even if I had high magic regeneration, it's sapping all of my magic. And it's gonna sap up to 400 points of magic. As you can see, her magic is also drained out, and it drains magic pretty much at a faster rate than she can regenerate. Now, of course, if you want to start regenerating magic, all you have to do is step outside of the circle. Anyone outside of the circle will, of course, be able to still cast magic, but they cannot penetrate the shield itself. So it's essentially a magical shield to kind of like regain yourself, and if you need to heal or if you need to equip weapons or things like that, it's very useful to use. I can actually show off the Devour Magic since she actually does have a buff. So let's get outside of the circle here. And as you can see, I devoured her shield and actually got back a little bit of health. Moving on from the Shodow Mastery perk, we're going to go into the Spiteful Backdraft. This increases the duration of spells stolen by Steal Spell by 25%, and the health percentage regained from Devour Magic by 20%. The second level of this increases by another 25% of the Steal Spell, which gives you 75 seconds to cast whatever spell that you've stolen. And the health percentage you get regained from Devour Magic increased by another 20%. So now you have a 60% health percentage regained from Devour Magic. Moving over to the left and down a little bit, you will be granted, from Cascading Shadow. Removes a 3-second cooldown from your Shadow Step and reduces the cost of Anti-Magic Zone by 30%. Also increases the duration of Silence to 7 seconds. At rank 2, this grants you the Anti-Magic Spell's power and increases the magic duration of silence to 10 seconds. So, once you reach rank 2 of that, you'll get the Anti-Magic Shell. Once a day, makes yourself impervious to all forms of magic for 60 seconds. While this effect is active, your magic reserves will be empty. So, let's go ahead and equip the Magical Weave. As you can see, if I try and cast inside the Anti-Magic Zone, it actually stops me from doing so. But regardless, we'll step outside. And there we go. Now I have a buff around me. Let's see if you can get her outside to start casting magic. As you can see, the magic is no longer doing any damage. I can still take physical damage, of course. But any type of magic spell that's done toward me is pretty much negated for 60 seconds. Gifts of the Void. Grants you the Essence Font ability to temporarily transfer a portion of your magicka into a target. At rank 2, grants you the ability Void Shatter ability, which casts an enemy, consume your Dark Charge, and deals damage based on how much magicka they are missing from their total. And I will get into rank 3 here in a second. So once you reach rank 1 or 2, you'll be given a couple of new abilities. Essence Font. After a portion of your magicka capacity to the target, after 10 seconds or if the target dies, the magic will be restored. Now this is more useful for allies and not necessarily enemies, because you'll be giving them a portion of your magic. So if you have high magicka and you want to give it to another mage who's ran out, or if you have a healer on your team that uses a lot of magic, you can temporarily give them some of your magic for 10 seconds, and then after 10 seconds it will automatically be given back to yourself. But if the target dies within those 10 seconds, you also get your magic back, so you don't feel like you've wasted the ability itself. The second ability you get from rank 2 is the Void Shatter. Consumes your Dark Charge and burns the enemy for magicka missing from the total. Each level of Dark Charge multiplies the damage by 1. So, if you have Dark Charge level 1, you do a pretty good amount of damage. You have Dark Charge 2, you do more damage. Dark Charge 3, more damage itself. So I believe she's given me, I think, 2 charges so far. Or no, just 1 charge. We'll see if she'll give me another charge. I believe that's the second charge. And that should be the final charge. Now, once you have either 1, 2, or 3 charges, how many you may need, go ahead and cast the Void Shatter. And I completely missed with that. And I think she's giving me ranked 1, so we'll try and hit it this time. So there we go. I guess I did hit the first one, but the principle of the matter is you use this spell once you've taken damage and either trade off for the Dark Mending, which heals you, in order to cast the Void Shatter, which does damage. So very useful if you do have a high amount of points in health, and you feel like, okay, well, you're doing a lot of magic, you must have a lot of magic. Boom, cast Void Shatter, and that enables you to do a pretty good amount of damage in itself. So rank 3. What this does is increases the amount of magic that you give to an ally by 20%, and this also allows you to cast a weaker version of Void Shatter without using any Dark Charges. So what that means is, without any charges on yourself, you can cast the Void Shatter ability, and that allows you to do some amounts of damage, but not as much as if you had actual charges within the spell itself. So we will equip this, and we will use it right away before the mage will actually do damage to us, so we can kind of show off that you can still use the spell itself. As you can see, without any actual charges, still does a little bit amount of damage, but not as much as if you had actual charges. Moving on from there, we have one more perk to show off, and this is just another passive perk, so it's not really much to show off here. Magic Ire. Now this actually benefits other spells that you got early on within the magic tree. Increases Magicka burned by Magic at Night by 10% and your anti-magic weave by 5%. At rank 2, it increases the same thing by another 10 and another 5. And at rank 3, again, another 10 and another 5%. So that shows off all of the magical spells and perks that you get with this. So I thoroughly enjoy this mod simply because it actually gives you a reason to use the alterations skill tree and alteration spells more often. Because in my experience, when I've played Skyrim, I've really never used alteration that much. I figured that what the actual alteration tree gives you is overlooked and outclassed by, you know, magical enchantments or by armor that has magical properties, so on and so forth. However, with this, it gives you more of a reason to use it, and it lets you kind of build an anti-mage type character, or warrior, or even a dark mage, if you will. And I think that's actually really cool. So I appreciate the recommendation. Again, this is from, I believe, God Serena. If you have any mods that you want to suggest, either leave me a message or post it in the comments below, and I will try my best to get around to making a video about that. If you want to check out this mod, as always, I will leave it down in the description below. If you do decide to download the mod, please endorse it. Show your thanks for the mod itself, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later.